Ladies and gentlemen, if I have to use one word to describe Aristidis Pittas, it will be easygoing, but not when it comes to legal fees, I must admit. Arist- Aristidis, thank you very much for agreeing to have this interview. As you mentioned yesterday, I'm your interrogator for today. And um, if you remember, when we met at Marine Money, you complained to me that I'm always miss your talks at Marine Money because I either arrive late or leave earlier. So today I'm gonna stay here and listen to you throughout this interview. So no more complaining after today.
I had to reside to this trick and have my friends in Marine Money arrange this interview so that I could be with you. So thank you very much, Marine Money, for organizing this and having me here as a speaker. I am honored, but also I was surprised with the realization that I'm here to speak about 25 years in shipping. And I said, am I here in shipping for that long? 25 years? I'm getting really old. And then I counted, and it's not 25 years that I'm in this business. It's 38 years in total. So it seems like a lifetime, but I still have energy. So I'm here to answer all your questions.
So we will not focus then on the last 25 years because you have a long history in shipping and a long tradition, actually. So would you tell us a bit about how you started your career in shipping?
Sure. I come from a shipping family. I'm the fourth, fifth generation of our family that has been involved in shipping. So I was always destined to follow along those lines. So in 1985, when I finished my military obligations and I had finished my studies, I was supposed to enter our then family business in London, Here's Navigation, where my father and my uncle were running the company together with their cousins. But 1985, if you remember, was a very bad year for shipping, and there was a crisis in shipping, as we've seen many during these years. So I was told, go out and gain some experience, because we might not even have a company after a few years. And I had to go out on the field. I worked for 4 years at Alexia shipyard. It was a really great experience for me. I worked for a couple of years with Vadrinoyannis family afterwards, and that was also a very interesting experience. And last, before starting my own business together with my brothers and my cousins, I worked for 2.5 years with Petros Papas in Ocean Bulk. He invited me to be part of the company at the time, and we worked together amicably. So through all these rounds that I did, I think I gained a lot of experience, which actually helped me in 1995 to start our own family business with the support of my parents, but I didn't want to live in England. Who wants to live in England, really? Uh, so, so I said, I don't want to live there. I want to live in Greece. I've got the experience. We'll start our own company. And I started with the support of my parents and my uncles. We started off with 2 dry bulk vessels after separating very amicably with Petros, where I was a junior partner. And that's the beginning of Eurobulk, our own family business.
Who wants to live in London? I think your daughter lives in London, if I'm not mistaken.
She'll come back, I'm sure.
And then, of course, after how many years you decided to go public with Euroseas?
So we operated like the traditional Greek family with Eurobulk, starting off with 2 ships, trying to grow the company in the same way that all Greek companies do. I realized quite early that, or I thought that small shipping companies would not have a future in this globalized world and the way that things were developing. So I tried from the beginning to find partners, to convince other fellow Greek people to join us so that we could make bigger companies. It was very difficult. All of us Greeks, we want to be the boss ourselves, and we want to have a small office with 2 ships rather than a bigger office with 10 ships and partners. So I wasn't successful. But then in 2004, I saw the opportunity of listing a company. I saw the pioneers that did it first, Angeliki Fragu and George Economou, and I said, well, maybe that's a way to grow a company without having Greek partners which you can't find. And I decided, despite my small size, to give it a go. It actually worked. The markets at that time were more forthcoming to companies entering the public markets. So after a lot of work, I managed in 2005 to list our company over the counter. We were too small. We didn't manage to raise the 50 million we wanted. We raised just 20 million, but I said, yes, let's go. We'll grow gradually within that. And that's exactly what happened.
And then, after 13 years, I think approximately, going public with Euroseas, you decided in 2018, if I'm not mistaken, to spin off Eurodry in order to separate your container and dry bulk ships. Thank you. What has changed these 13 years that prompted you to separate the fleet and have 2 separate listed companies? Do you do you consider that this was a good move?
Yes. Okay. Many questions, but
how come you decided to split the fleet and
initially, when we joined the U.S. capital markets, there were not any shipping companies listed in the capital markets. The American investors didn't really know the difference between a dry bulk vessel, a tanker vessel, a container vessel. I remember Nikos Tsakos, who was one of the first that went public, telling me, I went and talked to the investors about ships, and they thought that I was talking about sheep. But during those 13 years, the investors, they started to understand shipping more. We had quite a few companies that listed. And they started, I felt that they wanted to decide themselves if they want to invest on a dry bulk company or a tanker company. They could see the differences. And despite the advice of all the investment banks that I was talking to at the time, who were telling me, don't do it, you're a small listed company, don't separate them, you'll become even smaller. I thought I have to do it. And I was vindicated, I have to say, by that, because the day we effected the split, the combined market capitalization of the 2 new companies, our container company, Euroseas, now dry bulk company, Eurodry, the combined market capitalization increased by 50% in one day just after the move, which actually proved the fact that investors want to know where they're investing at. And this was also a good thing for us, Alexia. It made my life easier. Trying to run a company that has multiple assets is very difficult. You have to make the choice. Do I buy a container ship? Do I buy a dry bulk? Do I sell this? Do I do that? Where do I put my emphasis? But pure play companies are much easier to handle, I think, and I feel that that has helped us as well significantly.
So it was sophisticated investors and a clear structure that each company had to move forward.
I think the clear structure was important. My dry bulk company, Eurodry, could now be compared to the other dry bulk companies in the universe. Similarly, my container company. There was things to compare us with. Otherwise, there was nothing to compare. So it was definitely, for me, the right move.
So with 2 successful listings in the US, you are not only captain of the industry, as the title of this session, as is the title of this session, but Captain America, I have to say. I guess.
Well, let me say here a comment that I've been thinking if I would say it, but I'll say it here. Yes, indeed. I mean, we were probably the first Greek company, shipping company, to effect a spin-off and separate into two different companies. It was for a very good reason to differentiate the dry bulk vessels from the container ships. This, what we did, has been followed by quite a few others after that, but in a slightly different way. So the people span off companies just to have a small company that they would control through various preferred instruments and then be able to grow without really caring too much of the common shareholder, but caring about growing the company. And this has been done in a way that has been dilutive for ignorant common shareholders. It's perfectly legal. I mean, the capital markets allow that in the US, but it has been done in a way that has a little bit affected the opinion of people about the smaller Greek shipping companies. And I really want to say that we differentiate from these companies. We own, our family and friends own more than 50% of each of Euroseas and Eurodry. So the interest of the shareholders is our first interest. I know that as a CEO, I am responsible to the common shareholders, to the preferred shareholders, to our employees, to the industry as a whole. I appreciate, but being aligned with the common shareholders, I think, is important, especially for small investors. Institutional investors know that, and they select their investments more easily.
Okay, as you mentioned earlier, also the investors have become more sophisticated, and I think the shareholders also are understanding and can see if a company is, caring for its shareholders.
More and more.
I guess the years 1995 that you mentioned when you created the management company Eurobulk, and then you listed Euroseas, and thereafter in 2018 you listed Eurodry, are milestones for you, and all the growth that you managed to achieve during this period is a great achievement. What are you most proud of?
I think I'm proud of the way that I moved from a very, very small company into becoming a more material company. We're still not one of the biggest companies, right? There are at least 40 Greek companies which are bigger than us in number of vessels. So we are a medium-sized company, but we've done that throughout the years, being conservative, being ethical, caring for our employees, caring for the members of our family, caring for the industry and for Greek shipping. And this gives me a feel of pride.
Yeah, traditional with a public profile.
I'm trying to have a good public profile for Greek shipping and for everybody involved.
As shipping is a cyclical industry, there must have been some difficult moments as well as good ones. Which periods in your career do you consider were the most challenging ones, and why?
Very quickly, 1985, I was destined to go to our family shipping company, and they told me go work somewhere else. We are in a shipping crisis. Okay. Next difficulty, 1995, I start Eurobulk. 1997, we have the Asian crisis. The markets collapse. I think I'm going to go bankrupt. Next difficulty, after 2007, after the world financial crisis, it was relatively good for a couple of years because we all had made a lot of money previously. But then the period from 2010 to 2017 was a very difficult period for shipping generally. We over-ordered ships during the good times between 2005 and 2008, and suddenly the decade 2010 to 2020 was a very, very difficult decade. There were so many ships around, and it took a lot of time for the markets to recover. And when did the markets recover? They recovered after 2020, when I thought was going to be the next very tough time that I would need to pass due to the COVID arrival. But suddenly things turned out to be so differently. COVID was actually extremely good for shipping, especially for container shipping, because everybody stayed home and needed stuff, and the container ship business went through the roof. So that was actually the best time of my career was then. So it's always been a matter of crisis and good markets, less good markets than crisis, but if one perseveres and is conservative enough and doesn't overdo it with too much leverage, I think he can have a successful journey within the industry.
Okay.
I'm not going, I like it.
This is a general one. We discussed about your career in shipping and the growth of your companies during the last 25 years. How about the industry in general? How has it changed in the last 25 years?
Well,
I think we've covered most.
As I said, it's crisis, the past, then good years, then bad years. Nothing has changed. The industry is the same. It's an industry that is driven by supply and demand still, and that will continue. Changes, of course, are happening all the time.
Are you optimistic about the future?
I am optimistic. I think ships will continue to be needed. I think globalization is here to stay. We're not going to get fully deglobalized. There's now no other way of transporting cargoes around the world. So shipping will be here. And therefore, if shipping is here, the people that know how to run the business, they will always find some way of earning money and being successful. But trust me, for every successful ship owner, there are at least 2 or 3 that didn't make it.
So your advice for the next generation entering shipping?
My advice for the next generation entering shipping is to do what they are doing. Keep an eye on what's happening in the world, because this is the surrounding where we operate in. Kevin is making his signs that I have to go. But I want to say that I'm optimistic about Greek shipping in general, because Greek shipping, the people involved here have extreme know-how. It's a global business. Every company does its business in the world frame. We bank in the States, we repair in China, we have Filipino crew. It's a global business. Greece has the talent, and I think it can remain in the forefront for quite a few more years. Thank you.
Thank you very much.